Division 6, Audrey Miller.
Here.
Division 5, Robert Paris.
Here.
Division 4, George Lane.
Here.
Division 1, Shelley Sorcible.
Here.
Division 3, Frank Donato.
Here.
Division 2, Keith Dias.
Here.
General Manager Chisholm.
Here.
Attorney Kim.
Here.
And Holly Hughes present.
Thank you very much. Item 3, voluntary public roll call. If any member of the public wishes to introduce themselves, please feel free to do so now.
Vincentino, Palmdale Water District.
Hi, Vince.
John Yucatstead.
Hi, John.
White Fence 3, Jack Cephas.
Hello, Jack.
John Joyce, Roseman News.
Hey, John. Anyone else? If not, we'll go on to item 4, public comments and period open to the public. If anyone wishes to address the board on any item not on the agenda, please feel free to do so now. Hearing none, we'll move along to item 5. Do I have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
Also, Director Lane also moved, Mr. President.
Thank you.
This is Director Miller, a second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Barry Van Dam.
Yes.
Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes.
Shelley Sorcible.
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes, the measure passes. Thank you. Item 6, new business. 6A1, consideration and possible action to approve resolution numbers R22-26, R22-27, R22-28, and R22-29, providing for the appointment of the only person nominated to the office of Director of Divisions 1, 2, 4, and 5, and ordering the election for such offices not to be held on November 8, 2022.
Mr. President, Director Lane also moved on 6A1.
Thank you.
This is Director Sorcible, I'll second.
Thank you. Are there any questions or discussion? Keldon, did you have any comments?
No, I do not, President Dines.
Thank you. Okay, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Barry Van Dam.
Yes.
Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes.
Shelley Sorcible.
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes, the measure passes. Thank you. And congratulations to all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll move ahead to the next new business item, a special board order. Agenda item 6, SBO, public hearing on the Avek Water Agency's Conflict of Interest Code. Do we have a motion to open the public hearing?
This is Director Miller, also moved.
Thank you.
This is Director Sorcible, I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Barry Van Dam.
Yes.
Audrey Miller.
Yes.
Robert Paris.
Yes.
George Lane.
Yes.
Shelley Sorcible.
Yes.
Frank Donato.
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes, the measure passes unanimously. The public hearing is now called to order at 5:34. Dwayne, I believe you have a staff report.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Board President Dias. Every 2 years, the California Fair Political Practices Commission requires that AVEC and the AVEC Water Agency Financing Authority to review their Conflict of Interest Code and notice the FPPC if the code needs to be amended. The current code designates all the positions which make or participate in making governmental decisions. The designated positions are assigned to accurate disclosure categories that relate to the jobs and the job duties that they have. The only change that we have in our code in the last 2 years involves the addition of an additional staff member, a senior engineer that started in June of 22. And that position is required to file annually. With regards to the Finance Authority, no changes are necessary for that organization. So, a 45 notice of intent to adopt the amended conflict of interest code of ABEC was discussed at our regular meeting back in 9/22, and we subsequently posted it on the following day on August 10th. No comments were received by the closing date of September 30th, 2022 at 5 p.m. That would conclude my staff report, and staff is recommending adoption of the resolution.
Thank you. Are there any comments or statements by the public? If not, are there any comments or statements by staff or other board members? It appears we do not. So, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
This is Director Sorsable, so moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
This is Director Miller, I'll second.
Thank you. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
George Lane,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes, the measure passes, and the public hearing is hereby closed at 5:38 p.m. And now we'll move along to the resolution itself. Do we have a motion to adopt resolution number R22-34?
This is Director Donato. I move. So move.
Thank you.
This is Director Sorsable, I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
George Lane,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes, the measure passes. Thank you all very much. We'll move along now to item 7 of the agenda, consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
This is Director Sorsable, I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
Thank you.
Director Lane will second the motion.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Good. Mr. President,
Oh, yes,
can I ask staff one question?
certainly.
Yeah, on 7A3, extending authorization for continuing the meetings, and we do that monthly. But for what period of time is this? Are we voting on this?
It's for 30 days.
30 days
30 days
from now, or
from now, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Any more questions? If not, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
George Lane,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes, the measure passes. Thank you. Item number 7A, Finance Committee. Director Donato, do you have a report?
Yes, I do on a couple items. Item 8A1 is consideration possible action to approve a purchase order with D&T Fiberglass to repair a 4,000-gallon FRP tank at Roseman Treatment Facility, not to exceed the amount of $30,935. And Operations Manager John Bozigan will explain.
Thank you, Director Donato. Good evening, Board. So we have two purchase orders today. Like Director Donato said, the first one is the repair of a hypochlorite tank at the Roseman Treatment Plant. These storage tanks were installed in 2002. Typical lifespan is about 15 to 20 years. And at that point, you either have to replace the tank or you can reline the requirement changes since 2002. It would involve bringing the foundation up to current codes if you change the tank. And we elected at that point to just have these tanks relined. So we've done almost all of them. This is one of our last ones. It's a 4,000 gallon tank. We typically have used American Fiberglass Repair over the past 5, 6, 7 years. They've done a good job for us. We elected this time, typically we couldn't find other people that wanted to do these tanks, but we looked pretty hard and we did find a company in Northern California, D&T Fiberglass, and they do this exact type of work. So we've sent out an RFP to both companies, and D&T Fiberglass came back as the low bid at $30,935. So we would ask that the board approve this in a not to exceed amount of $30,935 to D&T Fiberglass.
This is Director Donato. I'll make a motion that we approve the board order 8A1 for the $30,935.
Director Lane, I'll second the motion, Mr. President.
Thank you. Are there any questions or discussion?
Yeah, Director Van Dam, I had a question. Mark, will we get another, sorry, John, will we get another 22 years out of this reconditioned tank, or what's the life expectancy on this tank?
Yeah, if they do it right, typically you should get another 15 plus years out of it. The key, Gary, with these tanks is when we go in to clean them once a year, the bottom is kind of a convex bottom, so you cannot step in the middle of the bottom of the tank because you could cause a crack. So very careful about how we clean these tanks. So yeah, I think 15 years is reasonable.
Okay, are those tanks on concrete or sand or rock, or what do they store?
They're on a concrete base with about a 1/2 inch rubber matting between the concrete and the bottom of the tank.
Okay, and they still crack with that rubber matting then?
They will if you step in the middle of it. It kind of oil cans on you if you step in the middle. So we try to be very careful when we clean these things.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Are there any more questions? If not, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
George Lane,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes, the measure passes. Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to 8A2, consideration of possible action to approve purchase order with Miracle Machinery for the removal of spread of coagulant at the 3 water treatment plants, Quartz Hill, Roseman, and East Side for the not to exceed $115,000, And again, John, our operations manager, will discuss this.
Okay, so this is an annual favorite. Removing of spent coagulant. This is at the 3 treatment facilities, Roseman, Eastside, and Quartz Hill. 95% of this material is at Quartz Hill. I'll begin by presenting just a few facts. We went over this with the Finance Committee in great detail. A byproduct of water treatment is the creation of spent coagulant. This is made up of the material that we remove from the water along with the treatment chemical that has been added. We had this material analyzed several years ago. It is not classified as a hazardous waste. It does contain some aluminum sulfate, small amounts of arsenic, chromium, copper, and lead. And each year, staff is asked to, or tasked to have this material removed from the drying ponds and disposed of. And it's a considerable expense every year. And about, I think a dozen years ago, Director Donato recommended that we add a component to the water rate to cover this, such as we do with chemicals and everything else. So for the past 12 years, we've contracted with the same local company to remove this material, as we've never been able to find anybody else interested in doing it other than Waste Management. We had them do it a couple times. This company was using a quarry in Little Rock to dispose of this material. And unfortunately, the quarry is now filled up and they can't accept any more of this material. We currently have, it's hard to exactly say how much sludge we have because you have to measure the piles, you have to measure what's in the ponds, and it's differing levels, but anywhere between 3,500 and 4,200 cubic yards. So we solicited pricing from 3 different companies. At the time, we thought Waste Management was going to be the only disposal option that we would have, and they certainly would charge by the ton, not by volume. So the pricing we received was a lot higher than we anticipated, and at Dwayne's recommendation, we looked for some alternate disposal options. I'm happy to say that Avek's Assistant Manager of Operations, Alan Morris, who I know you've heard from a couple of times, he was able to locate a quarry in Rosamond. That's the old Big Rock or Big Iron quarry. They're willing to accept this material at a savings of over $130,000 from the original prices that we got. And the reason is this quarry is not concerned with the weight whatsoever. They charge per trailer load, per end dump trailer. So they worry about volume, and they assume each trailer is going to be 20 to 23 or so cubic yards. So we gave this information to these 3 companies, this new information, and asked them to adjust their pricing. The first company was Harrison Nichols Trucking, a very respectable trucking firm. They said with what they've got on the books, they're just not able to submit a proposal at this time. American Integrated Services, they came in at $218,750. They estimated 175 loads, and it worked out to be about $1,250 per load. Miracle Machinery came out and looked at what we had, and he estimated it was going to be about 210 loads. Their price is $115,030, and that works out to about $548 a load. We did budget $100,000 for this annual removal project for this current budget year, and as I said, it's included in the water rate. And so the question might be asked, well, how do we know that they're hauling full trailer loads out of here? Because we're typically paying, by the trailer load. So we're going to have they're going to use a 4-yard loader. So we're going to have a staff maintenance or operations representative on site. As they load each truck, we're going to make sure that 20 to 23 yards goes in this truck. So that's going to be typically 5 bucket loads plus. And we'll ensure that these trucks are full when they leave. The good thing is the company that's done this for years, they're very responsible. We've never had a problem with them, but we still are going to make sure that we see every truckload that leaves Avek. Trucking company is accepting responsibility and ownership of the material once it leaves the gate, and the quarry is accepting ownership once it arrives on their site. So that's good news. We're hoping that we can use this quarry for several years in the future. If we do have to go to Waste Management, the price will go way up. So with that being said, we'd ask that the board would award this contract to Miracle Machine for not to exceed $115,030, and be happy to answer any questions.
You know, just as a comment, it might be interesting in a way, just one or two loads, just for our own knowledge, you know, how many, we've talked about yards and tonnage, you know, both right here. So, but anyway, that would, that might help us a little bit for the future use or just our knowledge of it.
And I think, George, that's a good suggestion because I do believe there is the quarry doesn't have a truck scale, but I believe in Mojave there is a truck scale that we can have them maybe weigh throughout the project, weigh some of the trucks just so we have an idea.
Doesn't take many. Is Shaper Scale still open on Sierra Highway?
I don't think so. Where they used to weigh the hay trucks all the time? Yeah, I don't believe so.
Yeah, they're not open, George. But there's another one across from Petrolock now, an 80-foot scale that went in here probably a couple of years ago. So we've been weighing trucks there. But yeah, that's a good idea. My concern too is is that full of water, John, or how dry is that material?
No, Gary, this stuff is dried down like powder. The only water they'll put is they'll put a little water on top just to keep the dust down. They do tarp it when it leaves, but just to keep the dust down, they'll water it a little bit, but nothing significant.
The question, you mentioned they might haul, 23 plus yards? Or?
They're thinking 20 to 23, and the weight seems to vary between a 1-to-1 or a 1.2. Sometimes we've had a cubic yard weigh, a little over a ton, and sometimes it weighs about a ton, depending on how dry it is. So that's typically what we've seen in the past. They can get about 20 yards on a truck, sometimes a little more if it's really dried down.
Right, that's my recommendation. I just make sure it's dried down as much as possible. I don't know if they scatter that stuff out, John, or how they store that material.
Yeah, we here at Avek, our treatment process, it goes into these drying ponds, and then once a pond is full, it's taken offline for almost a year, and then it dries down to, like I said, it dries down from about 20 inches down to about 6 to 8 inches. It's pretty dry.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes I'll go in there with a loader and they'll turn it, and they'll kind of turn it up a little bit, and it'll dry that bottom out. But you guys sound like you know what you're doing. On that Miracle Trucking, they're the ones that have done this for 5 years, you said?
Oh, yeah, they've done it for about the last dozen years. We had Waste Management one time come in and do it because Miracle was not available, and the price was significantly higher. But, yeah, he knows how to clean these beds. These beds are critical. They have a gravel bottom, then a layer of felt, then a layer of sand. And if you take sand out, which you don't want to do, then we have to pay to have sand brought in. If you go too deep, you rip the felt layer out, which plugs up the bed. So he's very experienced in doing this, and like I said, we never seem to have a problem when he's on site.
Okay, so they're providing the loader man and also the truck?
Yeah, turnkey, everything, start to finish.
Sounds good.
Okay, well, thank you.
I guess I'll go ahead and make a motion on A2. This is Director Donato, not to exceed $115,000, to be awarded to Miracle Machinery.
I just have one question over that, if I may, Frank. We think that's what it's going to be, but that's based on so many loads, isn't it?
Yeah, it's based on so many loads, and so that's not to exceed number.
Okay. Are you satisfied with that, or would you like some variance in that?
No, I'm satisfied with that, George. Even if we can't get the full amount, which I think we will be able to, we can always leave some. We have enough room in our ponds where we could leave some for next year. I think we'll be okay.
If you think you need it, come back.
Okay.
You should get all clean when the track. Everybody's got the contract, the loaders here, and everything's going.
Yeah, if we're that close, we'll just bring it back to the board for a little extra.
Hey, John, did we leave any carryover from last year?
The amounts yes, Gary, the amounts at Rosamond and Eastside are from about the last 5 years. They just don't, Rosamond's been on groundwater, so they don't generate a lot. Eastside's been very low flow since we have the Eastside water bank, so they haven't generated a lot, but that's about 5 years worth at those two. Represents,
I can guarantee you pulling that material out 5 years ago would have been a lot cheaper than doing it today.
oh, probably.
I mean, fuel's at $6 a gallon.
Right. Right. Well, we'll get it all cleaned up this year and come back if we need to.
There you go. Thank you.
If there are no other questions, could we have a second to Frank's motion?
I'll second it, Dr. Lane.
Thank you. Thank you. Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
George Lane,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes,
Keith Dias.
Yes, the measure passes. Thank you.
that concludes my report on finance.
Thank you, Director Donato. Item 6, Capital Improvement Committee. Again, Director Donato, do you have a report?
Yes, we do.
In here?
Okay, this is 8B1. We're going to consider possible action on acceptance of the work filing of notice of completion for the Westside Water Bank Recharge Pipeline Improvement Project. Nicholas Construction and our in-house manager will give us an update on that.
All right. Thank you, Director Donato. Good evening, President Dias, members of the board. There's a brief staff report on this item included in your board packet, and I've got a couple of slides here to go through. So just some background here. Nicholas Construction was contracted about a year ago to install about 3.5 miles of underground recharge pipelines to replace the above ground temporary aluminum pipe at the Westside Water Bank site that was used prior to that for recharging at the Westside Water Bank. All work on that project now has been completed and tested. Staff's happy with the final condition of that work and the final result. It's all been flow tested and everything came out really well. Nicholas Construction did a great job on this project. They completed this project very quickly, which saved us quite a bit of money on the construction management side. And I've got some information here on the project accounting. So we've got 4 categories here. This is pretty typical of all the construction projects that Avek has undertaken. We had the project design initially. You can see what was budgeted and then what was awarded by the board, and then the total amount that was expended on the far right-hand side. There was an amendment to the design contract to include the engineering services during construction. So that's why you see under the budget side that was included with the construction budget. We awarded about $68,000 on that. We only spent about half, and that was due to the engineering firm overestimating the number of submittals that they were going to need to review, or at least the amount of time they were going to have to spend on that. So that's good news there. And then the construction management was also included within the construction budget. We awarded $193,000 for that. And you can see they expended $116,000, almost $117,000 worth of that budget. And that savings right there is due to the schedule. So the contractor finished that work in fewer days than was anticipated. And so we needed the construction management crew on the ground during the construction of that project for fewer days. So that really saved us a good chunk of money there. And then on the overall construction, you can see we budgeted about $4.75 million for that. We awarded a contract to Nicholas for $4.6, and we expended right around that amount. There was one quantity adjustment that was needed for an additional air release valve. That was a line item on their bid, so no negotiation on that was needed. And that was approved in accordance with our purchasing policy with the general manager's authority. So bottom line, good news here. We awarded contracts for just over $5 million on this project, and we came in, you can see $4,964,000 or so. So good news there. Nicholas did a good job. Construction management team did a good job. The engineer on the project did a good job. So all good news there. And I've got some photos if everybody's ready to move on from this slide. If my clicker will go, there we go. So on the left-hand side is just an aerial view of what the project site looked like for a handful of years. But on the left and the right-hand side of the road there, that's 140th Street West, close to Avenue B, out there where our West Side Water Bank is. You can see maybe a little more clearly on the right-hand side of that picture on the left, where this, what we call the octopus, and I've got another shot of that on the next slide here, but you can sort of see where off to the right and then to the bottom are several runs of that 10-inch aluminum pipe. So that's all been removed and cleaned up. And the picture on the right-hand side is a ground level view of that same area. So real nice and clean. Here's a close-up view of that octopus. And all that's left now on the right-hand side, you can see the stub up where that used to be. All the piping now is underground. Up with me here. There we go. Another view. This is one of our other discharges there. You can see that's been removed. Nice clean site. Clicker's a little bit slow here. There we go. There's two 10-inch parallel runs that we needed to run that water. And now that's been removed. All that's left there is one of those air release valve cans. Here's a photo of, on the left-hand side, you can see the vault protected by two traffic bollards. And then on the right-hand side, kind of in the background, you can see in black the discharge of one of those structures. And I've got a couple better pictures of that. But just a real clean site. There's one of those discharge structures in action. As I mentioned, it was flow tested. This is running about 4,000 gallons per minute out into one of those ponds.
I have a question. These vaults right here, what are we doing for security measures?
Those are all padlocked up with Avek padlocks on them.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this is just a view of that one of those vaults being opened, and that's what it looks like on the inside. You can see some flow control valve there and metering or a meter. Oops. Skip the head one. And then here's what one of those discharges looks like, completely painted and with no water flowing out of it. There's an inset kind of on the right-hand side that shows you what that looks like looking from the top down. There's a little bit of a mesh screen there just to keep any critters from going inside of that discharge there. And that is it. So the recommendation from the Capital Improvement Program Committee and staff would be that the board authorize staff to file the notice of completion and release retention after the required waiting period, provided no stop notices or other claims are filed against the contractor. We've got about $233,000 in retention, which is our standard 5% on the total of the contract price. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, where'd we go with the aluminum pipe that was above ground?
Yeah, all that aluminum pipe was stored at the West Side Water Bank. It's all been stacked up in the yard there. So we have that available for us to use if the need comes up at other sites.
Okay, make sure there's a fence around that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's within a fenced yard right now. That's all locked up.
We used to identify it with a spray or a paint. Did we do that any longer?
On the aluminum pipe?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Do we have those identified? Yeah, John's saying that they've stenciled those aluminum pipes.
Good idea.
Is there any more discussion or questions? If not, could we have a motion to approve Board Order 8B1?
This is Director Donato. I'll move that we move to approve Board Order 8B1.
Thank you.
This is Director Miller. I'll second. And great job, everybody. It looks clean and nice.
Yes, it does. Okay, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
George Lane,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes, the measure passes. Thank you.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. Good report. Item 8, General Manager's Report. Dwayne?
Thank you, Board President Dias, members of the board. Let me try and can you help me out there, Holly?
Yep.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. We'll let it catch up here. Having some problems with the clicker, so.
No, let me.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. We'll go ahead and get started here. October 1st, we start a new water year. And in fact, there we go. Sorry. Going the wrong way.
Here, let me do it.
I'm not touching it. So
Okay.
I'm not touching anything. So.
There you are.
Okay, next slide, please. All right. So we're talking, this is the Northern Sierra Aid Station Index, and you can see there's no numbers on it. We've only had 10 days of this new water year, and there's been no precipitation. And we'll see how our new water year stacks up as we move forward. Next slide. As far as our operations update, we're using about 55% of our recovery capacity. We have LA County Waterworks. It's got a tour scheduled of some of our facilities on the November 9th. And on-site security is we're maintaining that on the West Side Water Bank through October. Next slide. You can see here, this is our operational numbers. We're operating about 17 million gallons a day as far as the various plants, as you can see through there. And our items that were our geopurification is running about 14.3 million gallons a day. And you can see Bench Ranch is running along with the West Side Water Bank. No recharge is occurring at the present time. And so it's the operations update. The agency projects, we have a electric motor from the West Side Water Bank has been removed and repaired. So we got that well back online. And then the East Side Water Bank is we've stopped our recharge there so we can do some work on the pond system there. All right.
Yeah,
Prevalent.
on that east side,
Mm-hmm.
we had to do work on that some years ago.
Right.
Is it because is it cracking?
No. It's just cleaning up the beds, letting them dry out, and disking them up.
Thank you.
You bet. It's the I think we've gone a little bit too far. Keep going back a little bit here. And I guess that's it. Okay.
It seems like it's the normal thing.
Yeah, I think we had some trouble there. So anyway, couple of events that we have on our schedule here is we got open enrollment period for health. The Fish and Game Commission is going to be talking about the Joshua Tree. And we provided the information here for checking that hearing out. You can hear it on Zoom, and we've also forwarded that to all the directors for your use. We also have a AV State Water Contractors meeting on the 13th, and Jennifer Pierre, who is the general manager of the State Water Contractors Association, will be at that meeting to do a presentation of the Delta Conveyance Project and the draft EIR. So if you have an opportunity to listen to Jennifer, that would be good. And then we have our Water Master board meeting on the 26th. And my schedule, I'll be in the office the next couple of weeks, with the exception of some doctor appointments and other appointments that may occur. With that, I guess that'll close my general manager's report for this meeting.
Are there any questions for Dwayne? If not, thank you very much, Dwayne. Good report. Item 9, are there any director's reports? Item 10, Tilden, do you have a report tonight?
Nothing to report, President Dye.
Thank you. Item 11, are there any requests for future agenda items? Okay, we'll move along. There is no old business tonight, so we'll move along to item 13, closed session. I believe we need to go into closed session for item D as in David. Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, this is Rob. I move we go into closed session.
Thank you.
This is Director Sorsabal, second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Gary Van Dam,
Yes.
Audrey Miller,
Yes.
Robert Paris,
Yes.
George Lane,
Yes.
Shelley Sorsable,
Yes.
Frank Donato,
Yes.
Keith Dias.
Yes, the measure passes. Thank you. Now Holly will transform this into closed session.
Thank you. Please stand by.